This is KTN News.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on The Last Word tonight. My name is Sophia Wanuna. So today, members of the National Assembly voted to delete a clause in the IEBC report that barred party hopping. They maintain they must be able to hop, jump, skip, whichever you like, because any law barring the same would be an infringement to the Bill of Rights. But is that so? Is a discussion we'll be having tonight. And of course, remember yesterday, their counterparts over in the Senate approved the IEBC report as is without any amendments. So what does that mean going forward? Stay with us because we will unpack and talk about more of what this means going forward. And you can be part of the conversation tonight here on The Last Word. We're asking you on our Twitter poll, do you support party hopping? Do you support party hopping? Do you think it is the way to go? Perhaps you've had some of the arguments that have been forwarded by the MPs. If not, you'll get to hear some of them tonight and talk to us about the same at KTN News and at Sophia Wanuna is where you can tweet us and I'll sample your views as we go along with the show tonight. But as always, let's begin with an update of our top stories today, beginning with the sports. Cabinet Secretary Hassan Wario has finally bowed to pressure and disbanded the National Olympic Committee. However, the CS finds himself walking a tightrope as NOC members have vowed to stay put. The body is adamant that Wario lacks mandate to disband an independent body. The Cabinet Secretary absolved himself from blame and constituted a probe committee to carry out an independent inquiry into the alleged mismanagement. The committee has been given up to September the 30th to present its findings.
NOC with immediate effect and transfer the responsibilities to Sports Kenya as the interim custodian. We will ensure the adoption of the new constitution for NOC and setting of a very clear election calendar.
A day after President Uhuru Kenyatta signed into law the Kenya Banking Amendment Bill 2015, bankers today sought to clear the air on what happens to existing loans and when the law takes effect. Now, even as many Kenyans celebrated the arrival of the new law on interest rates, the Kenya Bankers Association has revealed it could take up to 1 month before Kenyans know exactly when they will start enjoying new interest rates on both bank loans and deposits as well.
We actually do not know how the industry will evolve in the new environment. As I mentioned, I think banks will clearly come up with new models in terms of their business models. The challenges that have made the cost of credit go up have not been removed. As far as it's in view of the fact that the operationalization has not been effected. So far, the existing loans will continue to exist in the books on the basis of the existing terms and conditions until the new law comes into place. Now, if that new law will require the existing loans to be repriced, so be it. If it will only apply to new loans going forward, so be it. But whichever way it comes out, banks will have to comply.
So before we begin our discussion tonight on party hopping, let's update you on what happened earlier, because members of Parliament, the National Assembly, have endorsed the report of a special motion that seeks to reconstitute the National Electoral Body, IEBC. The MPs have, however, successfully waged a war against party leaders and removed the clause that barred politicians from defecting to other parties during party nominations. But the Deputy Speaker, Joyce Laboso, ruled that only the parliamentary leadership may introduce changes to the amended version of the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee report on electoral reforms, a move that blocked members from making any further amendments.
Speaker, yes. Madam Speaker, you heard the Leader of Majority.
On Wednesday, Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso adjourned debate on the special motion of the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee after an agitated House wanted to push several amendments to the committee's report. The National Assembly's leadership had urged the Speaker to invoke Standing Order Number 1 and make a ruling on whether lawmakers could introduce changes to the report, which was a negotiated process.
initially we thought the main issue was the party hopping. But sitting in the chamber myself, I was shocked that there were other major amendments which were being crafted, around where I was sitting.
Before the House leadership intervened, members had unanimously voted to delete a clause in the report that blocked party defectors. Come Thursday, the Speaker made a ruling that upheld the amendment but restricted further amendments.
An amendment is moved upon the original motion to modify the question in such a way as to increase its acceptability, build consensus, or to present to the House a different proposition as an alternative to the original question. It is on this basis that I admitted the amendment by the member for Kisumu West, following consultations with the mover and the seconder of the motion, who were members of the Select Committee.
Madam Speaker, today you have used Solomonic wisdom. I didn't know you are that intelligent, but you have done us proud. You brought the country together, and you have, yes, I'm reminded the Speaker is a PhD order. Don't give it to rebels.
Majority of the lawmakers said blocking party hopping was an infringement on the Bill of Rights, which is entrenched in the Constitution. But Majority Leader Aden Duale ridiculed party hoppers.
When I saw Honorable Ababu Namwamba, talking about party hopping, as we speak now, he is still hopping and he has not landed. He has not landed. He has hopped from ODM and he has not found out a place to land. So, Madam Speaker, it is immoral for a political leader to believe in an ideology of hip-hop.
I know there have been very serious attempts from the Honorable Duale and colleagues to mislead this my loyal member, who was a very strong Secretary General. And after doing that, Madam Speaker, now you can see they have abandoned him on the way.
If we are not careful, we are making our party leaders dictators by default, because you are giving them an opportunity to decide who of you will continue to lead in your chosen areas. Right now, I would sympathize with Honorable Duale, who regards himself as an insider. I can tell you personally, I've been an insider, an outsider, an insider, and again an outsider, and I can tell you over 30 years what it means.
The members later adopted the report. Leader of Majority in the National Assembly will next week introduce in the House for debate two draft bills, the Elections Law Amendment Bill 2016 and the Election Offences Bill 2016, where members will be allowed to amend some clauses during the Committee of the Whole House. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
All right, defending defectors there. It's our topic of discussion tonight. To be part of it, head over to KTN News. We have a Twitter poll that's running there, and we're asking you, do you support party hopping? The choices we have is yes, no, or it depends on the circumstances. You can let your voice count, and I'll read your views as we continue with the show. And also, of course, tweet me directly at Sophia Wanuna. Joining me in studio for this discussion is Peter Kaluma, who's Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament. He's also a member of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on my extreme left. And also with us is Irungu Kangata, Kiharu MP, also a member of that committee. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us tonight. So let's begin by understanding your positions. We do not assume that you're all pro-hopping. Where do you stand, Mr. Kangata?
Yes, personally, I support hopping.
Why?
Several reasons. One, the political parties which exist today in Kenya, they are yet to mature enough so that they can conduct free and fair nominations. Number two, there was a very good proposal by the Jubilee leadership that nominations be carried out by IEBC. If that was to happen, I can switch side. But as we speak, that is yet to happen, meaning we are entrusting nominations with electoral boards of respective parties. And I can tell you...
So you're in essence saying you do not trust your party?
Yes, indeed.
You don't trust the party leaders, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto?
No. It has nothing to do with them.
They are your party leaders.
No, they don't conduct nominations at all.
But they're at the helm.
No, they don't conduct nominations at all. We do have structures which exist in various political parties, including Jubilee. Those structures are the ones which deal with nominations. And those structures, I'm saying they are yet to mature enough so that one can say, I do agree with the verdict that is going to be meted out by that
But
board.
you chose to defy the directive of your party leaders. They said, pass this without any amendment.
No, it was not my party leader. It was called party leader is the one who said,
Both leaders had said, because this is a consensus document, then there should not be, because all of these give and takes have already happened at the negotiating tables. Once it comes to Parliament, it should then, having gone through that process, be as simple as yes.
No one called us for a PG to tell us how we are going to vote. Number two, we do have standing orders in our National Assembly which give us the right to amend any report which comes before the plenary. And therefore, we were still within our rights to proceed and make any amendment.
All right, because also the National Assembly Speaker had said that this being a special motion, there shouldn't be any amendments. You said there wasn't any PG, but we know very well that both leaders going into this process had said that it was a commitment that was given even by the co-chairs that the agreement is that there shouldn't be any changes.
No, but you see also,
Yeah.
there were pronouncements by my leader, that is the president,
Yes.
that indeed he would want a situation where the nominations of various political parties be carried out by IBC, which position I'm really supporting. If that was brought before the House, that is, you bring that amendment, you also bring that other proposal that no one should defect, then I would support all those amendments.
Okay.
But you see now you're bringing this amendment, this proposition that there's no party hopping, and that other very good proposal by the president is yet to be brought before the plenary for discussion.
All right, we'll talk about that a little bit further. Honorable Kaluma, where do you stand? Pro-hopping or sticking to the party?
I'm against party hopping, and I was against the idea that we could amend the provision to permit party hopping. Yeah, for two reasons. One, you know what we were negotiating from the Joint Select Committee was a negotiated document. And the agreement founding it was that whatever agreement or consensus the Joint Select Committee came to was not subject to change. So our biggest fear was that if Parliament, opened it to change, then we could end up even letting go those fundamental issues for which the court supporters, several of them died. A number of them are in hospitals even to date. In fact, nursing bullet wounds or with bullets in their bodies.
Right.
So we were saying the principled position why negotiation went out of Parliament was that we knew the uneven numbers in Parliament. And that is why we insisted on equal numbers from each side of the coalition, the majority, and of course the minority.
Yeah.
So we said, and then you remember when we were constituting the committee and when they were to begin the work, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, made a ruling saying there would be no amendments to that motion. And that being the mother motion, it was not contemplated in law that what would be born out of it would be subjected to amendment. So on that one principle, we said no. But we reached a situation where the Jubilee members were largely Jubilee members and a few court members who were talking about experiences with difficulties within their various parties were saying that unless the provision relating to hopping is deleted, they were going to kill the whole thing. And we looked at what we were fighting over. And on the side of court, we made a quick decision that really, when our people went to the street, the issue was IEBC commissioners must go. The issue was we need necessary electoral reforms. The issue was we need to put in place necessary systems and infrastructure to secure free and fair elections. Our people were never on the streets saying we want to stop party hopping. So we said, though it could come back through other laws, let us forgo it. It was peripheral to the reason as to why our people, died in this process.
Yeah.
So we therefore said that if that would enable the National Assembly pass these other good things we had, let us effect the amendment for them. And of course, it was passed yesterday. But in principle, I would say either way, we must agree Kenya is a multi-party democracy. And so political parties are no longer private properties, Sophia. We have a situation where the public funds go into sustaining political parties. They are now, entities for governance. They are vehicles for reaching the leadership of the country. And then you have options. We want a situation where we mature our democracy in the manner you see in the West, the manner you see in the UK, the manner you see in the United States.
Okay.
Where if you belong to a party, you belong to a party because of what it stands for, not simply because the party leader is there.
Yeah.
If you give me time, Sophia, I will tell you.
Briefly, please.
Yes, we have a very untidy situation in Parliament today, where you have people affiliated to CORD. Like I can talk about Luo Nyanza. Lagaluoch is elected, Honorable Lagaluoch is elected in Fort Kenya. But in truth, he'll tell you when he was campaigning, he starts by praising the party leader for ODM. So you get a situation where people are seeking positions on a dishonest basis.
And we'll talk about the Political Parties Act, which had sought to ensure we do not have that kind of practice in as far as the political landscape in the country. But Honorable Kangata, when you talk about party primaries and that, if IEBC then is allowed to manage the same, you'd feel more confident. Isn't that something that has been put as optional for the parties? And your party has said going forward, it is something they would want. The president himself announced with the Jubilee Party being formed that their proposal is that IEBC would conduct the party nominations. And also in this particular report, that is a proposal. Whilst it's not one to be forced on all parties, but that if any party be willing, then IEBC should come in to assist. So then what is your problem there? Because the issue you were raising earlier is sorted by that.
No, they would need some legal changes for that to be effected. For instance, it is quite expensive to conduct a primary. The question would arise as to whether that has to be funded by the respective party or the taxpayer has to fund that. The best case scenario would be for the taxpayer to fund that.
But the taxpayer is already funding the party.
No, you see, what the taxpayer funds a party does not include nominations. One is very little, taking into account what a good party entails. Number two, when you talk about a nomination that is free and fair, and which is very good in terms of its structures, in terms of its outlay, it may be like a mini poll. And therefore, you're talking about an expenditure that may go into the region of about 1 or 2 billion.
But either way, weren't you as a party going to conduct nominations with or without IEBC? So where was that money going to come from?
Well, it comes from members, and no wonder we say it's not sufficient. You see what happens when you have party nominations. Party usually go out to donors. Number two, they will issue, let's say, for instance, certificates and probably ask members to pay up. They may issue up membership cards, and all that money is usually not enough to conduct a free and fair nomination. So the best case scenario would be we have the government funding nominations for all parties, and they are conducted in one day. That may entail, by the way, for us to convince our brothers in CORD to support that idea, so that we have one election in one day, nominations one day. And then from there, I would agree. It does not make sense for us now probably to party hope. But for now, where you have several parties conducting nominations on various days, to me is not fair. We have to allow members probably to party hope. Number two, again, remember Article 38 of the Constitution what provides. Article 38 of the Constitution establishes what we call political rights. That is the right probably to believe in a certain political belief, the right probably to denounce that belief and probably take another one. So therefore, again, there are constitutional issues.
Yeah, but you're taking that other belief out of failure to get what it is you want. So it's not, it appears, when it comes to party hopping, it is not an issue of an ideological divergence, going on opposite paths with members. It is that because I have lost, I now shift, because I have not gotten my way. So ultimately, an outsider will look at this as simply a selfish move by members who pass the same to ensure they have their way at the end of it.
No, you can't say that. Because number one, ultimately when you party hope, you are going to go to the mini election, and if at all the people do not love you, they are going to kick out. So if at all you went to party hope and you do not have the people, you are going to lose in the general elections. Number two, you cannot tell what motivates a politician to party hop. You may say that person is being motivated by selfish needs, but you never know. Maybe as at that time, he changes his political ideology and decides to switch allegiance.
All right, Kaluma, what do you make of that? His proposal that first the taxpayer should fund the nominations, and also be made compulsory for all parties and conducted on the same day.
For one, it is a ruse. I don't think Honorable Kangata is being serious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at Article 88, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution, political parties have the space and liberty to involve the Electoral Commission in their nominations. Nothing is stopping them. Number two, all political parties that qualify, and currently there are the three major political parties, you know, benefit from public funds to do their activities. But most importantly, in terms of the political party nominations, you must know that all contestants at all levels make contributions to facilitate the process. And I can tell you, as members of parliament, remember in the last elections, on average for the big parties, we were paying 100,000. The governors were paying to their respective parties 200,000. You can imagine how many people were contesting for various positions that are mentioning. Then at the level of MCAs, it was between 20 to 50,000, depending on parties. All these contributions are being made by contestants to facilitate free and fair nomination. So that the idea that you say parties have not been doing it because they are not facilitated is neither here nor there. To me, the fundamental issue is what should political parties focus on? And what should be, you know, our legal regime if political parties are truly instruments for governance.
Right.
We are a multi-party democracy. Sophia, when you go to the United States now, you hear of the nominations of the presidential candidates. You don't hear when they are undertaking their political party primaries in terms of members of parliament, senators, and mayors down there. The same is the case in the larger part of Europe. What happens there is that political parties, instead of involving in these things we call primaries or mini elections, make a determination to have elections for the flag bearer up there. And they say, as political parties, we are fighting for the governance of the country. Now, down here, they engage independent survey firms to assess who are the people interested in the party certificates and who is the most popular. And then people are brought to a table, and they give the certificate to the most popular, and all the other, you know, contestants go supporting, you know, this candidate, so that they get power. What we have in Kenya is a situation where once you lose, as leaders, we believe you should be trying your luck. It is trying your luck. You're gambling with the immaturity of the electorate. And so that we have a very unprincipled position, which, if you allow me, I will tell you is happening in our parliament now. You have a new principle has developed in parliament called molds. So you have a person who is in Jubilee, but the ideals he's espousing in parliament are CORD, and he's sitting on the CORD side. You have so many members on the CORD side who should be on the minority side. But whether they are sitting on the CORD side or on the other side, the positions by which the people of Kenya, you know, defined voting for CORD are not being expressed. It's propagating Jubilee ideals. So, that untidiness and indiscipline can only end when we go into parties based on ideology. And when we, of course, tell, you know, people that you go into a party to believe in it. And I think all of us, both myself and Kangata, tried before. We lost in our respective parties. You try again another time.
You try again another time. So, Honorable Kangata, because one would argue, and we had one of the co-chairs says, then it beats the purpose to even have nominations in the first place. If at the end of the day, you're going to have members and politicians who are seeking elective positions have free reign, that if they don't get the nomination ticket, they can seek it out elsewhere. So that why have a nomination? Why then go through all this process, spend all that money, all that energy and focus, and also the country being in this electoral mood when people ultimately will have their way. So do we do away with nominations?
No, you can't say that because
so what are they for? Because it looks like an exercise in futility.
No, you cannot say that because, you see, a nomination is not the end of the process. The end of the process is the actual voting day.
Yes.
And ultimately, if at all the person who defects is not supportable or is not popular with the people, is going to be punished. So therefore, whether he defects...
what's the point then of having the nomination, back to my point? Because if ultimately, yes, the people have the choice, then why are you going through a sieving process? If the people sieved out, still go to the lineup.
No. You must always give people a second bite to the cherry. And for obvious reason, there may be, let's say, for instance, weaknesses during nominations. There may be those candidates have decided to change their political stance.
What we should be dealing with today, as opposed to saying let people hop, say what are the issues. For example, some have said it's because they are curtailed in political parties. Nomination tickets and candidature, that same is sold, that whoever is the highest bidder is, given the ticket. Isn't that what we should be sorting out and dealing with, as opposed to looking for a convenient method that leaves the problem put?
No, by the way, when you have a situation where you allow party hop, in fact, you strengthen the parties. Because we see, because of course you would imagine no party wants to lose strong members, isn't it? No party wants to lose a seat. And therefore, they will have a reason to ensure the nomination is fair. As opposed to a situation
so
where...
who determines the members who are strong, though? Because shouldn't it be the people who are voting in terms of nominations? Because if the president feels you're the strong one, the people don't agree, they want so-and-so to lead. So they give you the ticket, but the people would vote for this, the different candidates if presented to an election. Isn't that flawed thinking?
No. There are several reasons which makes nominations become unfair. One, you may be a popular candidate, but then again, the party honchos do not want you, so they reg you out. Number two, you may have a situation where there is voter apathy. So therefore, that election or the nomination does not represent the people's true opinion. And therefore, you may decide, allow me to go for a second time so that I measure myself that indeed I'm not popular or not. By the way, there is one point which my colleague here has mentioned, which I have to counter. He has said that parties have resources to conduct free and fair nominations based on the monies which have been collected by those parties. To me, that is even another reason as to why we should, in fact, have nomination funded by the state. Why? You'll see, for instance, a party like, let's say, TNA, the one which I came to Parliament with, they were charging, let's say, youth about 200,000 shillings. By that time, personally, when I was being elected, I was only 32 years old. So therefore, you're asking me as a young person to pay 200,000 shillings, or even a woman, you ask that woman to pay 200,000 shillings, or even a person living with a disability, which to me is a discrimination. But taking into account those people, most likely, they come from poor backgrounds. So it makes all the sense, in my own opinion, to ensure our elections are not captured by the rich. We have them funded by the state so that no one can say he was disadvantaged by the fees.
Kaluma, would you agree, because we've had this said and the argument propagated that there is a lot of corruption in parties, that it's actually, even the nominations and primaries that we see conducted, it's just PR exercise, that ultimately we already, the party leaders, those in authority and the power will already have picked out who they will hand the nomination tickets to.
I would not be in Parliament if there were such practices in the ODM party. I want to tell you that in the year 2007, we ran, and a person won, another purported to get the certificate. And it is about mobilizing the people to secure their right to democratic participation. The people came up and said, we elected so-and-so during the party primaries, and they insisted that so-and-so be given the certificate, or they will not participate, in peaceful elections. And that person was given. In 2012, when we were conducting our party nominations in Homa Bay, I won against 12 people. And when there was contestations, I told them, then repeat it. The idea, if you believe the party has engaged in such malpractices, is not to jump to another political party. Remember, under Article 38 of the Constitution, every individual has political rights. The rights include the right to free and fair elections, both at the national level and within the party. So just on the basis of that alone, if you have won properly, and essentially the certificate is given to Kangata instead of Kaluma, I will go to the political parties tribunal, and it is headed by very good lawyers, and a decision will be made. If the political parties tribunal fails, I have my recourse to the High Court in the enforcement of that right. So that this shortcut, political leaders, are taking are just dishonest steps. Not that we don't have recourses we can follow. In fact, you can stop even those party nominations.
So, Kangata, do you have evidence?
If they are favorable.
Yes. Do you have evidence, a case you would perhaps cite of rigging, which you mentioned that perhaps also some of the reasons people would opt to still be able to jump ship?
Yes, there are several, and I can tell you most of them happen not to be in Jubilee, they happen to be in CORD. The mover of that amendment, which passed yesterday in Parliament on party hopping, is called Lawyer Aluch. Mr. Aluch won the nominations of ODM, but his certificate was taken away. It was given to the loser. And then Mr. Aluch defected to, I think, Ford Kenya. He went on to win. Also in Murang'a County, we have a place called Gatanga constituency. Mr. Roho Safi, the current member of parliament, won the nominations of our party. Something happened. He went to another party.
So
he
the
won.
dirt and the
No.
is on both
No.
sides.
You can't. No. You can't say that because of course I wanted to give examples which
on
are
both
fair.
sides.
Yes, but when you look at in terms of evidence, majority are in court. And I can give even a better example. Last time when we had elections, party supporters of ODM stormed their party. They burnt everything. They beat up everyone there, and they were protesting the issue of nominations. A best example, by the way, is the Ruaraka seat, where TJ Kajwang, who is now the current member of parliament of that place, his nomination certificate had been taken away. And he is the one who had won the nominations. There are so many examples in court. By the way, in our party, I have been elected twice. First as a councillor and now as a member of parliament. By sheer good luck, I have benefited out of fair nomination process. But I can tell you...
By sheer good luck. So even you doubt your own processes. You're like, oh, it's good luck. It's not because the processes themselves
No. You see, you see what they should do, according to the law, the people who should be doing nominations are the party members. But as we speak, I think it's only our party, the Jubilee side, which has a party register. They don't have a party register.
All right,
so anyone going in court to seek a political position...
Let him speak to that briefly.
Sophia, when is the last time you had the Jubilee-affiliated parties are having a meeting since they seized power? Not even a single meeting. When did you hear either URP or TNA is holding a party function anywhere?
Respond
None
to the
at all.
allegations. Is he wrong of the cases he has cited?
It's dead wrong.
Did those things happen or not?
In fact, it is dead wrong. What happened in the situation of Olagalwach and Rosa Buyu? That Rosa Buyu believed after campaigning and getting nomination, it was done because she contested with Olagalwach and others in ODM. Least did she know that she needed resources still after the nominations to counter an MP or a sitting MP coming to seek a second bite at the elections. So resources diminish. And this is why we are having proposals like, do we fund women additionally? But remember the fundamental thing I'm highlighting is that even Olagalwach himself in campaigning was campaigning under the name of the leader of ODM, not the leader of Ford Kenya. Okay. That is the dishonesty I'm talking about. Be in a political party because you believe in it. I believe the legal amendment we are going to bring. Sophie, let me make it clear that the idea of party hopping in the Joint Select Committee's report came from Jubilee because they have their problems in establishing this Jubilee party, and they're thinking of how to lock their membership who are rebelling. You know the situation they are facing with the merger. It was not ours. That is why it was easy for us to say, this is your skunk, carry it.
All right,
but we are saying, be in a party because you believe in it.
Because you believe it. And we'll talk
the
about
amendment we will bring is to go the South African way, for instance, where people do not contest as individuals, but you compete as parties, you campaign for parties, the parties give a list of the leaders they want to be in the assemblies.
So you want to rule out independence?
Yes, certainly.
Independent candidates. So let me ask you this, because given in any contest the issue of somebody coming out and saying, I'm not happy with this, that's normal, it happens across the board. Let's talk about then, instead of party hopping, one would suggest why not put up mechanisms that are strong to settle the disputes that arise? Because what you're saying is that if one feels they were rigged out or for whatever other issue, then the option becomes, let me look for a different avenue. Why not seek to have mechanisms that are strong in place, that if that happens, then you have a mechanism that finds who at the end of the day is really the person that won a nomination, as opposed to seeking ways that do not fix the problem.
Yes, they are usually there. The problem is that they are also not very strong.
This
And
is
therefore,
the political parties tribunal and the IBC tribunal. Which one is it?
And the
What
High
are the
Court.
different?
according to the current situation which is obtaining in Kenya,
Yes.
once you have been rigged out of a nomination, you're supposed to take your case first and foremost to the party. Now, it depends which party. The party ought to have certain rules. So therefore, you follow those rules. For instance, more often than not, you'll find a party providing for arbitration. So you go before the arbiter, who is going now to hear your case. If you are not happy with the decision of that person, you are now supposed to appeal to the IBC. If you go to the IBC, probably you don't get good recourse. You may as well decide to take that party probably to the political parties tribunal or even the High Court. So the problem with that mechanism is time factor. What happens with these parties? They usually time that nominations will be held about 1 or 2 days before the actual nominations.
So why
by
not put
IBC.
a law in place that allows for nominations to be done well in advance to allow for that ventilation before the closure of the process?
Good. That is one of the deficiencies with this report, because they ought to have noted that indeed it's very unfair. It's very unfair to have nominations very close to the elections. To the nominations of the elections. So no wonder we are saying this report has issues.
One of the things, this report has issues. So talk to us about what you're proposing, because we had Senator Wako also talk and argue the case about the independent candidates, that there shouldn't be nominations on the same day as well as those for independent candidates. The same should happen after, so that people, I suppose, who are aggrieved during the nominations can be able to go it alone. Yes.
Now then, will not be a multi-party democracy. I'll be speaking with Senator Amos Wako, the former Attorney General, to agree on the principles that underlie the idea that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. You have your options from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And this is how it happens, Sophia, across the world. Even in the US, even in the UK, you have independents. But they are independents always. Up to the Supreme Court, you'll be told this judge is an independent, this judge is a Republican, this judge is a Democrat. That is where we are going, where we are telling you, in Kenya, you have the options to choose your party based on the ideals the party propagates. And if you look at all the parties we have around and you find none where your belief about where the country's leadership should go fits, be an independent candidate. It should not be that Kaluma is becoming an independent candidate because he tried his luck in ODM and he failed.
Okay.
That is unprincipled.
So what is the place for ideology? Because it brings us back to that, and you've mentioned and touched on it a couple of times, because we see the same happen. For example, with the US, the Democrats and the Republicans, it is a clear distinction. They stand for this. If somebody says I'm a Republican, you know what it is they espouse. But here, we see manifestos, it's a big ceremony, there's a lot of fuss about it, but many times many will not be able to tell you even what those manifestos, and even majority of them are almost copy-paste. They almost are all the same. They want to sound like these high ideals we all espouse, but when it comes down to it, now we're talking about party hopping, then you're jumping from what you believe to what? What do you say about that?
One and foremost, we need to understand that our Kenyan politics are still not ideologically based.
Okay.
It is a sad
We're
affair.
about vehicles to getting into power.
Yes, yes. Although, of course, when you look deeply, you will see some divergence of opinion on key issues. I can tell, as a matter of fact, these guys tend to be communistic in nature.
Who are these guys?
That CORD tends to be...
We stand for social democracy.
Communistic in nature. For us, we believe in free capital.
Yes.
And we also believe in producing and baking the cake before you start talking about the issue of distribution. So, well, to a certain extent, I think we are still somehow not yet transitioned into ideological politics, and it's a sad affair, I agree. It is true also, I concede that we may need to have stronger parties, and that may entail having a situation where candidates are very clear as to which party they are going into. But then again, we must also understand the constitutional design of our constitution, because you must understand when it comes to the way constitution are usually designed, we have what we call a presidential system, we have what we call a prime ministerial system, a parliamentary system, and also we have what we call a mix of the two. So between 1963 and 2010, we had a mix of the two.
Okay.
We opted for a presidential system. So some of the proposals my colleague is talking about, like he made reference to the South African system. South African system is a parliamentary system, and therefore it does not make sense for us to borrow anything out of South Africa. The best case scenario, probably, if you want to borrow anything, probably would be we look either to France or maybe America, because those are pure presidential system, which Kenyans supported.
So let's talk about an office that should be bringing sanity in as far as political parties are concerned, the Registrar of Political Parties. First, there's been an issue that Madam Lucy Ndungu has been acting in acting capacity for over 4 years now. Perhaps I'd want to hear what your thoughts are on the same, but also that she has, or rather that office has power to deregister parties that don't conduct free and fair nominations. And we've seen quite some charades in as far as party nominations are concerned, but we've never seen any parties deregistered. We've seen hopping. The constitution that Kenyans overwhelmingly voted for had put in place checks and balances, which have now all been watered down. So then why have, from where you sit, such an office that really is almost like a toothless bulldog?
You had answered it. We have political parties who copy-paste the manifestos of each other. We have a situation where the current ruling party, with the haste of its formation, just picked the ODM manifesto without believing in it and chopped it off and changed the colors and called it theirs. And that brings a challenge in terms of implementation. Because if Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and of course we fought for this constitution, where their leaders were when we were fighting for this constitution. They don't believe in it. So you have a situation in which we are saying to strengthen political parties, we'll have an office to deal with them called the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. I can tell you since we came in, Sophia, we don't have a substantive holder of that office.
Why?
And who are in the instruments of power, they will not allow it. If you look at the Registrar of the Political Parties Act, we are saying out of the national budget, 0.3 of the budget should be funding political parties. 0.000003 is what political parties are getting each year. And you see a ruling government which is controlling the purse, which does not believe in strong political parties. Sophia, what it confirms to you is the history of this country since we deleted Section 2A and became a multi-party democracy in 1992. Since we kicked KANU in 2002, the philosophy of the country has been that you use a political party to gain power, you assemble a new party for the next competition stage. And so you have NAC, after NAC you have something you call PNU or a coalition. After that you have Jubilee Alliance, TNA and URP. After that you see now we are going to Jubilee Party. And essentially I wanted to tell you that because we don't believe in principle, in the entire country today, we have only one political party, right, which fits. That's the ODM party. All these others are tribal outfits who believe in nothing other than...
We saw what happened, the Shambolic party nominations you attempted at Kasarani, that fell apart?
No, that was an internal competition for party leadership, not party hopping.
Men in black situation?
And I'm very happy they did what they did. And remember I was speaking to this thing initially. The supporters and members of the party must believe in a party so much that if there is interferences with what the party believes in, then they say, no, that is how I'm a member of parliament now. The people said we have nominated Kaluma during primaries and we will not have anybody else. And I can tell you the ODM party, and in terms of the top leadership, we believe if a person is popular, you give him the vote, because otherwise you are overburdening the electorate for nothing.
All right, so and explain this to our viewers what happens next, because the National Assembly, of course, deleting this clause that was barring party hopping. The Senate, however, allowing for the same to go as passed, did not make any alterations. So what happens from here? The two houses not agreeing on the issue?
No, first and foremost, we need to understand what was before the National Assembly was not the legislative proposals per se.
Okay.
We were not discussing bills. We were discussing just a report. So meaning, to a certain extent, the real meat will come once the actual bills come before the National Assembly. Probably, I would imagine...
But you already deleted the clause.
No. We were discussing the report. And there is a difference between a report and a bill.
Okay.
So meaning, the meaning, we still have a lot of work to do.
So Senate could follow suit.
No. Yes, I agree to some extent. According to the Constitution, our standing orders, what will happen? We shall go for mediation for only that one clause in respect to the report. But then again, I'm saying that is not the real meat. The real meat will come when legislative proposals will come before the National Assembly, and then we start discussing each and every legislative proposal.
Yeah.
This is just a report. Even if we go for mediation for just that one clause, I think, to me, we should not belabor that point so much. We wait for the real legislative proposals. From there, I would imagine that clause, all factors remaining constant, is going to be deleted. In any event, it was not that which was so important that made even us to have this joint effort to bring Kenyans together. I think the key
Not
issue...
important, and yet it was the first issue that you were up in arms as members watching the proceedings about, because one would have imagined, because the key issues was IEBC, the commissioners exiting and the manner in which they do, and, you know, getting electoral reforms in place. But in as far as the first issue that there was passionate discussion about was the hopping.
Of course, for obvious reason. It appears, for obvious reason. The reason was somebody sneaked that clause in that. Yes,
but
indeed.
This was a negotiated process. There were times to talk and discuss. Are you saying you were not aware as members of this?
Well, of course, the people who sat there, we are saying they did not
So
do
you're
half perfect.
disowning the people who are representing the Jubilee side. You're saying they did not represent the parties.
No, they did, but of course they are not angels. They are also amenable
So
to
they're
doing something
mischievous.
wrong. Of course, it's a fact. It does not mean that because they are representing are there, you cannot do something which is wrong. So to that extent, I think they did everything that was so good. We are happy with the kind of work they did. But on that point, I think they were very wrong.
All right, we have just about 3 minutes to go before we wrap up. Think about what you'll tell us for your last word going forward on this. But I want to read some of the feedback we received tonight, because we're asking whether you support party hopping. Lubutse, you're saying perception is biased and kills this issue as well, because members will always do what they want. Dennis Wameo, you say you're watching the show. Thank you. Party hopping is a cake, presents a lifeline, breeds dishonest politicians. Mika Korir, you say no, it undermines the politics of ideology. Sagashina, our party democracy thresholds do not allow party hopping, and history too proves not. Chris, you say without party hopping, how will our MPs survive? Siongere Piaga, you see how some people think. No politicians must have firm ground, is your opinion. Andrew Kibet, you're saying no, I don't think parties should be based on ideals and not tribal groupings, and the fewer they are, the better. Kilonzo, party hopping shows one has no respect for the manifesto of his or her party, and they're being selfish. Ryan, you say yes, you think it has no problem, somebody does it, but at long last, the electorate will decide. Isaac Talam, you say I'm supporting hopping because politicians are like grasshoppers. They are unpredictable, so let them hop. And many others of your views. Gidua Wakoine, party hopping must be accepted. And you're tweeting, you say from Bahati, Patrick Kuria, no, it's marks of indecisiveness on the part of politicians. So as you give us your closing remarks, because clearly watering down in as far as what the draft of the constitutions and what Kenyans agreed to in promulgating this constitution, and as far as the discipline, the checks and balances in parties are concerned, all of that has been thrown out the window, and it's now about politicians having their way by hook or crook. Wouldn't you agree?
No. It is wrong for you to characterize what we did in those terms.
You just said your own representatives were being mischievous.
No. You see, well,
by hook or crook?
No, in actual sense, we are correcting some legal problem that has been brought about by that proposal. Because the Constitution is very clear in terms of the right of association, the right of assembly, the right to change your political ideals, and probably we need to refer Kenyans to Article 38 of the Constitution. It gives and establishes political rights of each and every Kenyan. And that may include to support this political cause today and tomorrow to take up another cause. My final word is this in this debate. The proposal by the Jubilee Party that nominations be held by IEBC is a very, very, very good idea. I would urge parliamentarians to embrace that idea. We have nominations by IEBC, then thereafter we can block party hopping. But without that...
But your party has already said they are going to ask IEBC to do it. So what's your issue now? You don't believe your party will go through with it?
No, it requires some legal amendment, some interventions by Parliament. And probably the best case scenario would have been that committee to include that proposal also there. That Jubilee proposal ought to have been part of the committee.
Isn't there time to have those proposals as you debate the bills in Parliament?
Yes, indeed. Time is there. Probably if that happens, I'll be the one supporting the proposal to block party hopping.
Okay.
We have adequate laws to secure discipline in the party. There is nothing stopping any political party from conducting nominations even now. That is why as ODM we are saying our nominations will be in February. So that if you want to petition even up to the Supreme Court, you have all the time before the closure of nominations. Let me say that we must be principled as a people. I will not seek nomination to bear the flag of ODM in Homa Bay Town, and when I fail, I go to Jubilee Party. I don't believe in the practices, in the ideals, in the leadership of Jubilee. I can't do it. We must be principled and make our choices early. Last, let me request our supporters as God that this idea of party hopping is a poison chalice coming from the Jubilee to distract us. When we went to the streets, we said IEBC must go. IEBC has gone. When we went to the streets, we said we want electoral reforms to secure free and fair elections. That has happened in the reports. When we went to the streets, we said we don't want elections to be rigging competitions. We want to inculcate electronic systems in biometric, in registration of voters, in voter identification, and in result transmission, and that is secured. I want to request the people who believe this would secure free and fair elections that we forget about these things called party hopping. These are Jubilee skunk for them to carry. Let us focus, let us move Parliament, let us encourage members of Parliament to pass the report and pass the bills already drafted.
Okay.
Then we create a beautiful country.
And before we go, just for clarity, Ababuna Mwamba, has he officially hopped from ODM? Do you know?
No, Ababuna Mwamba signified orally, not in writing, his intention to leave the position of Secretary General. Yes, we gave him an ultimatum to resume office because he abdicated duty. But remember, Ababuna Mwamba said he's in the ODM party. If he were not, he would be out of Parliament now. And that is the kind of
the party?
No, that is the kind of freedom we give our members. It's a situation where a member is saying,
so now it's freedom.
I should be Secretary General. No, he has simply said he should be our Secretary General, but he's busy with other things. He wants to continue to be an ordinary member. And we encourage it. Those are the internal party liberties we put. Okay. There is a person in acting capacity, as and when we'll determine